Good morning, friends. Welcome to Kids Time. I'm so glad that you're here with me again this morning, right up front at the playground. I'm Rebecca, the Children, Youth, and Family Director here at St. Paul Lutheran Church in Missoula. And today is a special Sunday that we call Good Shepherd Sunday. And it has something to do with what we read about from our Bible stories this morning in worship. So I have a story for us to read together, and I would love for you to think about why in the world might we call this Sunday Good Shepherd Sunday once we hear this reading. So, see what you think. Let's read it together. If you have a Spark Bible, I would invite you to pause this video and go and grab it so that you can follow along with me. And if you have your Spark Bible, today we are on page 160, a story called The Lord is My Shepherd. Let's read it together. David, the shepherd, loved his sheep. He led them to beautiful fields where they ran, played, jumped, and kicked up their heels. They ate lush green grass and feasted on delicious berries. They drank from mountain streams and splashed in refreshing waters. David cared for each and every lamb. If one wandered over the hill, David was quick to go and find it. He put the lost lamb on his shoulders and sang sweet songs and hummed soft melodies. Sometimes he played his harp to help the tired lambs fall asleep. During times of danger, David fought against wild animals with only a slingshot and some stones. His sheep were not afraid because David was always with them. David thought about what he did as a shepherd and thought that God cares for people in many of the same ways that he cared for his sheep. One day, David wrote a song to tell everyone that God is like a shepherd. God loves and cares for each and every one of us. David wrote this song. God is my shepherd. God gives me all I need. God gives me wonderful places to rest and sleep. God lets me splash and play in cool, clear waters. God helps me do what is right. I am not afraid even in the darkest nights, because you are with me, God, and your protection comforts me. When danger comes, you give me strength. My life is filled with your love, and all I want is to be with you my whole life long. David sang his song to his sheep, thankful for all the ways God loved and cared for him. So in that story, what do we learn about God? Yes, we learn that God is like a shepherd. So it makes sense that we call today Good Shepherd Sunday, because we read stories that help us learn how much God loves and cares for us. So we say that God is like a shepherd because God cares for us, God protects us, God comforts us, and God is always with us. You know, something that reminds me of being cared for is a first aid kit. Do any of you have a first aid kit at home? Well, I think that there are lots of things in this first aid kit that might help care for somebody if they got sick or hurt. So what do we find in a first aid kit? Should we take a look? Let's see, let's open this up. Well, in this first aid kit, let's see, we have some Band-Aids. If you scraped up your knee, you might need a Band-Aid. Let's see, what else is in here? We have, here we go. We have a thermometer. So if you're sick, you might need a thermometer to tell your temperature. And here we have some Neosporin to put on a boo-boo to help it heal. We have alcohol pads to clean up our boo-boos. We have medicine that might make us feel better. So there's lots of things in a first aid kit that we can use to care for people when their bodies are hurt in some way. And, since God is like a shepherd and cares for us, I wonder what God would put in a care kit for us. Can you imagine with me? If God made us a first aid kit, what would God put in it? Well, the first thing that I think God would put in a first aid kit for our hearts is some love. I think that God would put God's love in a first aid kit for our hearts. You know what else I think God would put in a first aid kit for our hearts? I think God would put in some joy, because joy makes our hearts feel better. And I think that God would also put God's beautiful creation. Because when we look around outside in the world, we can see all the amazing things that God has created and how much God cares for us. And the one other thing I think God would put in a first aid kit for our hearts is a big hug. God comforts us when our hearts hurt, when our souls hurt. And just like we have a first aid kit at home to take care of our scrapes and bruises and upset tummies and temperatures, I think God does give us a first aid kit for our hearts that we can use whenever we need to. When we feel sad or lonely or ashamed or angry, I think God really does give us all these things. God's love and joy and comfort and creation. God does give us all those things, and we can read stories about it in the Bible. We can pray to God about it, and we can trust that those things are there for us all the time. That God always gives us that love and joy and creation and comfort, no matter what. That God does make us a first aid kit for our hearts, even if we don't have it in a box like this. We know that God does give us those things to heal our hearts, no matter what, all the time. It's one of God's amazing gifts to us as God's people. So today, I am so thankful that we have a God who gives us first aid kits for our hearts like a good shepherd would. So, thank you for being here with me today, friends, and I can't wait to see you back here next week. Bye, everybody.